Shalom and good evening from Zion. Thank you for joining us for another delightful teaching from the Torah as Rabbi David teaches us through the Torah Parashat Vayeshev, that is Genesis chapter 37, verse 1 through 40, verse 23. We will begin our broadcast here shortly. Please stand by.
Well, Baruch Hashem, here we are again, Tuesday night. Time flies when you're having fun. Well, this week's Torah Parashat is Vayeshev, and it means literally to dwell, but the word shev means literally to sit, rather than, well, it says dwell here, but it doesn't really say dwell, but the concept of dwelling is there because he sits. If he's a gur, the gur as a sojourner or someone who's a foreigner who's living in the land and passing through maybe, that's really going to be a different concept. Before we begin, let's have a word of prayer. Father God, I thank you for your grace, your love, and your patience with us. I thank you for the word that you gave us from Moses and Torah. We ask you, Lord, to be with us tonight as we study. I ask you for your grace upon us, and I ask for your living water to be poured out upon us. Everybody repeat after me. Father, I'm hungry.
I'm hungry.
I ask you to feed me.
Ask you to feed me.
Father, I'm also thirsty.
Father, I'm also thirsty.
I ask you for living water.
Ask you for living water.
So that I have plenty to give out to others.
So I have plenty to give out to others.
In the name of Messiah Yeshua.
In the name of Messiah Yeshua.
Amen.
Amen.
Baruch Hashem. Okay, so we've got our Torah Parashat tonight. Name is Vayeshev. And I'm going to write this for you. On my desktop here, I got a little space where I can actually write a few things out. We've got Yud Shev, and that would be pronounced Yeshev or simply Shev. Now, Shev means to sit. The concept of sitting is that you're not on the run, but you're comfortable. You're able to sit and enjoy a meal or whatever. The concept of gur, get this done here a minute. It's ger. Ger means literally to sojourn. And sojourn means that you are a guest in a land. You're not living there as a native or as a member of the civilian community there, but rather as a foreigner that you're traveling through, or maybe there for some period of time. And so if you are Yoshev, you're setting, then it's more of a, like you own the place, like you're able to be comfortable here. And a ger is someone who is just sojourning as a foreigner. Now we'll go back and take a look at the first word. We have Vayeshev, and this is a vav conversive. The verb is yeshev. I'll bring that up here. Yeshev means literally to sit down, by implication to dwell, to remain, or causatively to settle in the land or to marry. So you are becoming a full citizen of the land rather than a foreigner who's just passing through. And it says Jacob dwelled, Yaakov dwelled, Be'eretz, in the land where sojourned his father. There's the root, megure, is a derivative of gur, gor. Megur means literally who sojourned, and it's a temporary abode. It's not a permanent residence, in other words. So Jacob was a more of a citizen in the land, whereas his father was a stranger or temporary resident in the land of Canaan. Verse 2, Eleh toldot Yaakov Yosef ben Shiva Esareh Shana Haya Roeh et Echav Batzon. Let's just go ahead and go back to the beginning of the verse, and we'll catch up to where we are and explore further. These are the generations. Toldot means the offspring or the generations of Yaakov. So Yaakov is the one whose generations are being discussed. Yosef is a Hebrew word that means to increase or to assemble or gather. So Yosef was a son of Shiva Esareh. Shiva Esareh means literally 17 years. Ben Shiva Esareh Shana. And he was feeding with his brothers the flocks, and the lad was so he was just a lad, and he was feeding with the brothers. The sons of Bilhah, and this is the sign of the direct object again. So here it is here, sign of the direct object. Again, we have the sign of the direct object. So both of these things that are going to be mentioned are the direct objects. So et here is connected with the sons of Bilhah. It connects that with the lad. So the lad was with the sons of Bilhah, and also the sign of the direct object, the B'nai Zilpah. So these two groups are combined together as the direct object of that part of the sentence. Now, it says of Bilhah and Zilpah, it says Shnei, which means two, wives of, and Aviv, of his father. So, Vayava, and brought, and Joseph brought, and now it's going to tell them the next thing is the sign of the direct object. So let's see what that is. Let me get this cleared. And so he brought a bad report of evil nature to his father, their father. Aviham means literally their father. So some Hebrew words are sentences are a little more complex than a simple English statement. So to try to translate this into a direct, simple English sentence or verse is just sometimes very hard to do. So this is all one verse. It's verse 2. Eleh toldot Yaakov Yosef ben Shiva Esarah Shana Haya Roeh et Echav Batzon Vehu Naar et B'nai Bilhah Ve'et B'nai Zilpah Shnei Aviv Vayaveh Yosef et dibatam ra et el avihim. So it's a lot of words to try to put together in one sentence, and you have to be able to hang on to the context as you go in order to properly translate this verse. Now I'm going to go ahead and bring it up in the Complete Jewish Bible, which will give you a little better English form of the structure. Here's the history of Yaakov. When Joseph was 17 years old, he used to pasture the flocks with his brothers, even though he was still a boy. Once he was with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. He brought a bad report about them to their father. That's a lot to hold on to for one small concept. And it really doesn't fit in one verse, but that's the way they chose to break it up when it was translated. Would be a little easier to comprehend if it was structured just a little different for English-speaking people. So Zilpah and Bilhah, these are the two slaves of Rachel, of Leah and is it Rachel or is it? My brain is not holding on to anything tonight. Okay, so we've got Isaac married Rachel. No, it was Rivka, right?
And Yaakov,
Brain. Come on, kick in, brain. Then we have, and I think I better just not even try to teach tonight. We have Yaakov married Leah and Rachel. And so Rachel and Leah had two servant girls, and one's name was Bilhah and the other was Zilpah. So these are the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah that he would be feeding with, but also the sons of Leah and Rachel would be out there with them. So they'd have all of the sons out there feeding the flocks. Doesn't seem to give you that full picture there in this sentence, but continuing on in verse 3. Israel, that's an alternate name for Yaakov. That's what God named him. Ahav et Yosef, he loves Joseph. Mikol would be from all of his children. He loved Joseph the most, in other words, because he was the son of his old age, and he made for him a coat of, it's translated here, many colors, but it's actually a coat of many stripes, but then the stripes wouldn't be too clearly seen from a distance unless they were broad stripes. And what some of the material seems to translate this word as hand breadths of stripes. And they wouldn't stand out very much unless they were varying colors. So this would be more like a coat of various colors that would be available for the parents to manufacture their children's clothing with. And since Israel probably was not a seamstress or a seamster, he would have probably hired someone to make this coat for him. When he saw his brothers, when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all the rest of his brothers, they hated him, and they could not even speak to him Shalom, peacefully. Shalom here is the root, and it means literally to speak to him in peace. In other words, they're always angry with him. So we come to verse 5, Vayachalum, and he dreamed. Joseph is the dreamer, so the the next noun would be the point of the action. The action is dreaming. And so Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told to his brothers. Now, this is the root for a book that we use every year at Passover, and that's the Haggadah. It's the order or the telling of the story of the Exodus out of Egypt. And then his brothers hated him even more after he told them this. Verse 6, and they said unto him, Shema na, he said unto them, Shema now. Na means I pray. Please listen. Ha halom, to the dream I have dreamed. Hazeh, this one. Ashir halomti, which I have dreamed. V'hinei anachnu, behold, we were ma'alim, bindings. Alumim. This is the same root. If you look at this, it's the same. We were binding alumim, bindings, or in other words, sheaves of grain. Bitok, in the midst of hasadeh, the field, the hine, behold, kama, arose my sheaf, alumati, my sheaf, and also nitzava, which means literally to stand, and behold, tisubina, stood around about your sheaves were standing, and ta vatish tachavechni venia ina. It's kind of hard to say from an English-speaking point of view, but it literally means to bow down and prostrate to the ground. And so their sheaves all bowed down and prostrated themselves to his sheaf. Verse 8. V'yomru, and said to him, his brethren, Hamalok, are you really going to reign over us? Timlok, you shall. Aleinu, over us. Or shall you indeed have dominion over us? And the more yet, the more he talked to them about his dreams, the more they hated him for the dreams and for his words. Verse 9, Vayachalom, and he dreamed another dream, and another he told. He told it to his brothers, and he said, behold, halamti, I have dreamed a dream more. Behold, the sun and the moon and the stars, the 11 stars, did obeisance. This is Shatachavim, made obeisance, in other words, prostrated themselves down to me. And he told it to his father and to his brothers. And it says, Vayigar, he rebuked him, his father rebuked him. And he said to him, Mahalom, what is this dream that you have had? Asher halamat ta, chalamta, havo, navo, ani, shall I and your mother and your brothers all bow down ourselves to you, to the earth? So that's a very powerful statement. A lot of people don't have any confidence in dreams anymore because they don't understand them, and they don't. The significance of dreams is basically gone bye-bye. They don't pay any attention to them at all. I had a book that I was writing down my dreams in for a long time, And after I had about 3 of them that mounted up to about 2.5 to 3 inches thickness of papers, I gave up on trying to write all my dreams down because where did I put them when I need them, you know? It's like, might as well not write them, so I stopped writing them. But there was some pretty interesting things in those dreams. And I found that many of those dreams were prophetic in nature towards me and towards people that I knew. And so the dreams, a lot of people tell me, I've dreamed a dream about you, Rabbi Hall. And I said, well, the dreams are for the dreamer. Oh, no, this had you in it. I said, yeah, but you saw me as being you in the dream. We're one. And they didn't quite get it. But I've always found that the dreams are for the dreamers. And sometimes they have significance similar to what the dreamer thinks they mean, but they misunderstand the application of it. They jump to conclusions, and then they go off and say, I had a prophecy for you in a dream, and blah, blah, blah. There was a lady on the radio, and she had this dream about having some guns and other things, and she was telling about her dream, and I knew that the dream was about her because that's just the way those dreams are. They're about the dreamer dreams, and that dream is about them, not about somebody else. And so she was saying that that all the world and the Christian world were going to be all upset because of some great collapse that was fixing to happen, and blah blah blah. And I'm sitting here going, no, this is about your collapse. Something's going to happen to you. That's what I felt. I didn't tell her that, but I understood that from her dream. And a few months later, she just disappeared. She wasn't on the radio anymore. Not only that, there was no collapse of the United States in any way, form, shape, or fashion. So I just understood that she didn't really know how to interpret dreams. And here Joseph understood that the dream that he dreamed was for him. It wasn't about his brothers, his mother and father and his brothers. It was about him. And that his mother, father, and brothers would come to revere him, show obeisance towards him, prostrate themselves before him. And we know that later on in the story, probably either in the next parsha or the one following, they actually do that. They come before him, and all of them, including their father, they went and brought their father back from the home in Hebron, brought him to Egypt, and all of them bowed down before him because they saw him as being equal to Pharaoh. And that if they were going to get the food that they needed to make sure to please him. So it was pretty interesting to see how that this dream that's very clearly about Joseph did directly tie in the brothers with Joseph, and that they were going to have to treat him with respect or they wouldn't get what it was they were looking for. So, and there's another translation of a dream that took place for the 2 men that were thrown into prison while he was in the dungeon. The wine server and the baker for the Pharaoh were put into prison, and they each told their dream, and it was for one it was disastrous news because they were going to get, in 3 days they would die and be hanged on a gallows from their neck. But the other one would be restored to their place of serving wine in the presence of Pharaoh, and it would be treated with honor. So anytime that a person has a dream, you should not assume that it's about somebody else, but it's your dream. And God gave it to you. And there may be a reason for it, or it may be just you working through some of your own issues. And you have to learn to pay attention to those things. I highly recommend that if you have a lot of dreams and you think that they may be significant, write them down. And then later you can come back and look at your notes about your dream, and it'll refresh it in your mind, and maybe God will show you something about it, because he did me many times when I dreamed dreams and wrote them down, then it would later be translated for me. So how you doing?
I'm getting there, getting even better, sir. Very blessed, very grateful day. Very long day.
Baruch Hashem.
Prosperous day.
Well, we're in verse 11 of chapter 37 in Genesis, and it says, Vaikanu. His brothers envied him, but his father observed the things. He kept them. I want to go ahead and bring it up in English, and we'll see if we can make a little more progress. After this, when his brothers had gone to pasture their father's sheep in Shechem. What is Shechem?
Place of burden.
Place of burdens. That's where you do your work, right? So it's the shoulders, literally translates out shoulders.
Right.
So Israel asked Joseph, aren't your brothers pasturing sheep in Shechem? Come, I will send you to them. He answered, Hineni, here I am. And he said to him, go now and see whether things are going well with your brothers and with the sheep, and bring word back to me. So he sent him away from Hebron Valley, and he went to Shechem. So what does Hebron mean?
Hebron.
Hebron. You've heard of Chevron gas?
Hebron.
I believe it comes from the word Hebron. Okay?
Hebron.
Uh-huh.
I think we said it last time. I can't think. I should have written it down.
What does
Well, it's a place of mysticism,
Oh.
mystical things.
So when I
Okay.
put Chevron gas, I'm putting mystical
Yeah, you could be.
substance into it.
Hebron, Chevron, Chevron. See, Chebrown, seat of association, and let me get it on up here a little further, go back to the real root. A special society, also a spell, enchantments, charmers, company of enchantment. So it's talking about a place of mysteries. And it's a picture. Yaakov living in Hebron, that is a picture of Yahweh God in the heavenly place, in the place of mystery. Nobody knows what's up there. It's all mysterious. Are you following me? And that's why Hebron relates so closely to heaven, and Yaakov, or Israel, is the place of the government of God. And so he sent him out of the vale of Hebron, and he came to Shechem, where his brothers were supposed to be working the burdens of the father, which is to take care of the sheep. Isn't that what shepherds are supposed to do today? But are they? Doesn't look like it to me. So he says he found them he found, matzah means to bring forth or manifest, a certain man, and behold, Toah, he was wandering in the field, and he asked him, the man asked him, saying, what are you seeking? And he said, my brethren, achai, my brethren, anochi mavakesh. It's so hard for me tonight on these vowels. I don't know what's going on. I seek my brethren to tell, I pray thee, where they are feeding. In other words, shepherding their flocks. And he said, the man said, they are departed from here, mizeh, from here. For I heard them say, Nalach, let us go, Dotana, to Dothan, Dotana. And what is Dotana? A place of false religion.
Oh. Wow. Really?
It's an Aramaic dual. Dotayin. It's a place I consider it to be a place of false religion. Okay,
I got you.
and so that is where they had gone, from the place of burdens to the place of false religion. So Joseph went after his brother and found them in Dotan. Vayaru, and they saw him, Merakach, afar off, and even before he came near unto them, they conspired to slay him. Now, how could they know it was him coming? Well, first of all, they saw him, and they saw him in the rakia, which is the interface between heaven and earth. They knew it was him. They would have known it was him had it not been for his coat, but they saw his coat also, which is the sign of his brother. That's a spiritual sign. It's a very spiritual thing. And it says that this coat was a coat of, they translate it many colors, but it's actually a coat of handbreadths. And so I'm thinking that each handbreadth was one color, and so it would make it stand out. And you could see it from a long distance and know that jacket just by the assemblage of the colors on there. Does that make sense? So they conspired immediately to slay him. And they said one to another, behold, Baal ha-halomot, this dreamer, is coming. Go down to verse 20. Vayishma. Yeah? Oh, okay. And he heard, Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands. And he said, not nakanu. Literally translated, understood, we will not kill our brother. Okay? Let's don't kill his nephesh, his soul. Verse 25. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the Complete Jewish Bible again. Verse 19, 20. So come now, let's kill him and throw him into one of these water cisterns here, and then we'll say some wild animal devoured him. We'll see then what becomes of his dreams. But Reuben heard this and saved him from being destroyed by them. Who was Reuben?
The oldest.
The eldest brother.
He's also the one who committed adultery.
Right? In that previous chapter just before this parsha started. And, of course, he had committed not really so much adultery, but he had slept with his daughter-in-law, which is forbidden in the Torah. And she was supposed to be given his youngest son to be her husband. He didn't do it. And when he said, okay, well, bring her to me so we can get rid of her and kill her, you know. And so she came before him, and when she came, she said, well, the one who slept with me, who's the father of the child that I carry, these belong to him. Can you tell me whose they are? And she hands them to him, and of course it's his. It's his staff and his IDs, his signet ring. Yeah. And so when he found out, he had to dismiss himself because he was guilty, and he knew it. That was the proof. And so he went away and
that was Judah, though.
That's right. It wasn't Reuben, it was Judah. Did Reuben do that as well?
Well, at that time, Judah withdrew from his brothers and went to lodge with a certain Adullamite named Haran. Well, that comes in 38.
Right. Okay. But anyway, I got a little mixed up in the family here.
He took a wife from his firstborn. That's what it was. He took a wife from his firstborn. Her name was Tamar.
Right. Yeah. But was his son that he took the wife for. He died, then his brother took his place. He died. So Yaakov didn't want to give his youngest son to him because he's afraid he was going to die too. So he said, let him grow up first, and then we'll give him to you for a husband. And of course, he didn't do it, and she knew he wasn't going to do it, so she plotted and schemed and had relations with her father so she could have offspring for her, you know. So it got to be kind of a sticky mess, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So when Joseph arrived to be with his brothers, they stripped off his robe, the long-sleeved robe he was wearing, and took him and threw him into the cistern. And the cistern was empty, without any water in it. And then they sat down to eat their meal. But as they looked up, they saw in front of them a cavern of Yishmaelim. What does Yishmaelim mean?
Camel riders.
No, not quite. Good guess, but not quite. Yish.
Means fire.
He. It's Yud, and then Shema. He was heard of God, El, Ishmael. So who do you think God was listening to here in this story? Yosef. So all of these names just directly tie into the story. And they're very idiomatic as well as expanding the intent and purpose of the script. It's very interesting. So these Ishmaelim came from Gilad. What is Gilad?
Place of success or prosperity.
No, it's actually a heap of witness.
Okay.
It's a heap of stones that they pile up for a witness. And so the witness is heard. The witnesses all around Joseph. Well, where were they? Well, you couldn't see them because the angels are all around listening, okay? And so these Ishmaelim came from Gilad, the heap of witness, and they, with their camels loaded with aromatic gums and healing resins and opium, and on their way down to Egypt. The opium would be, of course, for painkillers. That's what they use them for today. We got a big serious crisis, according to the president, of opioid habitual epidemic of addictions. Yeah. So it says his brothers paid attention to him. So when the Midianim merchants passed by, they drew and lifted Joseph up out of the cistern and sold him for a half a pound of silver, or 20 shekels of silver is what it said in the text, to the Ishmaelim who took Joseph on to Egypt. So they sold Joseph for 20 shekels of silver. What does that remind us of? Yeshua. He was sold for 30 pieces of silver, wasn't he?
Yep.
So it's very close in the story. So when the Midianite merchants passed by, they sold him for about a half pound of shekels of silver to the Ishmaelim who took Joseph on to Egypt. Reuben returned upon seeing that Joseph wasn't in the group. He tore his clothes in mourning. And he returned to his brothers and said, "The boy isn't here, isn't there? What can I do now? I'm the eldest. I'm responsible, and I'm going to be held liable for my for Joseph's demise." So they took Joseph's robe and killed a male goat and dipped the robes in blood, and then they sent the long-sleeved robe and brought it to their father, saying, "We found this. Do you know if it's your son's robe or not?" They knew it was. He recognized it and cried, "It's my son's robe. Some wild animal has torn Joseph into pieces and eaten him." Yaakov tore his clothes, putting on sackcloth around his waist, and mourned his son for many days. Though all of his sons and daughters tried to comfort him, he refused all consolation, saying, "No, I will go down to the grave to my son in mourning." And his father wept for him. In Egypt, the Midianim sold Joseph to Potiphar, one of Pharaoh's officials. It was at this time that Judah went off from his brothers and settled near a man named Hirah. And this is the story where he took a wife for his son, for heir. Her name was Tamar. Anyway, I wanted to skip on down because we're almost out of time again, and I want to try to get back into the story timeline that we were in and see what happened to Joseph in Egypt. So Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's and a captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him from the Ishmaelim who had brought him there. Yahweh was with Joseph, and he became wealthy while he was in the household of his master the Egyptian. His master saw how Yahweh was blessing him, and Yahweh prospered everything he did. And Joseph pleased him as he served him. And his master appointed him manager of his household, and he entrusted all his possessions to Joseph. From the time he appointed him manager of his household and all his possessions, Adonai blessed the Egyptian's household for Joseph's sake. Adonai's blessing was on all that he owned, whether in the house or in the field. So he left all of his possessions in Joseph's care, and because he had him, he paid no attention to his affairs except for the food he ate. Of course, we know how that Potiphar's wife was lusting after Joseph and decided she wanted him. She waited for him to come into the house when none of the other men in the house were available. And then she claimed that he tried to take advantage of her. And she pulled his jacket and other things and said, "See, aren't these his robes and things?" And after pressing him for many days, she finally insisted and demanded that he sleep with her, but he wouldn't. And so he blamed her. She accused him of being inappropriate with her, just like is happening today in the United States government. The one guy that I probably feel like wouldn't do that is one of the heaviest condemned by the women in the government. So he went into the house to do his work, and she advanced on him. Yahweh was with Joseph, showing him grace and giving him favor, even in the sight of the prison warden. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? The prison warden made Joseph supervisor of all the prisoners in the prison, so that whatever they did there, he was in charge of it. And the prison warden paid no attention to anything Joseph did, because Yahweh was with him, and whatever he did, Yahweh prospered. And then we get into the story of the cupbearer and the baker, and they had dreams, and Joseph interpreted the dreams, and the dreams came true, and 3 days later the cupbearer was restored to his position with honor with Pharaoh, and the other one was hanged from the gallows, the baker. So that was pretty much the end of that Parsha for this week. We got about 5 minutes left. If somebody's got any comments or questions about the Parsha for this week, I'd be happy to entertain your questions and see if we can draw some more of the marrow out from the bones. Or if I can get Shane awake, maybe we'll pour some coffee down him or something. I don't know.
Does that mean I'll have to drive? Yeah, I'll have to drive.
Why, does that coffee put you to sleep?
No, I think it was that sandwich put me to sleep.
Oh. And no comments? Questions?
That's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll call that good for tonight. And if any of you online, please have a question or anything, you can send it to asktherabbi@tzion.org. I'll be happy to try to give some thought to your questions and see what we can come up with. All right. Well, I guess if that's it, then that's it. So we'll see you next week, Tuesday night, Torah study again next week. And then on Shabbat, be sure to come around for our Sabbath service. Amen. Hey, she's
Oh,
trying
there
to
you go.
trying to chop my head off here.
No, it's carrying you, carrying your home. Behind the blue.
All righty. Well, I'm thankful that you were able to join us for the study tonight, and I pray that we'll see you again next Tuesday and or also next Shabbat. So,
that will be also
okay, next Shabbat will be, or next
Tuesday.
Tuesday? Oh yeah, next Tuesday's Hanukkah, so maybe we'll just have a little Hanukkah party instead of the normal Torah class. Okay. All right, well, hope to see you then, here, there, online, or in the air.
I completely forgot that Tamar had twins.
Uh-huh.
And then one of them, the same thing as Jacob with Esau, where the breaking forth of one of the baby put
Yeah,
out
he
his
put his
hand.
hand out and
Mm-hmm.
and they wrapped the crimson cord around his wrist, and that's why they called him
Cautious people.
they called him Scarlet
Yep.
because of the scarlet thread around his wrist.
I completely forgot about that. Wow.
Yep.
So his hand was born with. Wow.
Tuesday nights.
Thank you for joining us for another delightful teaching from Rabbi David Hall here at Zion. If you want to join us again, come to our Shabbat services, or you can see us online. They are Saturday morning, beginning with our 10 a.m. Bibles Issues class, followed by our main service at 11 a.m. with worship, liturgy, and another teaching. If you'd like to know more about Zion, just click on search for tzion.org, and you can find more information like our yeshiva website, which is free and register to study, to have a more in-depth study about the foundations of our faith and the biblical text. And so let us know if you have any questions. Again, if you have, you can just send them to rabbi@asktherabbi@tzion.org. We shall see you again. In the meantime, shalom, shalom.